The Skyline Lounge was booked. Confetti cannons, the good ones, were ordered after 7 years of grinding, of late nights fueled by lukewarm coffee and the sheer, bloody minded refusal to quit. I was finally getting my party. My name is Harper, and I'd just been promoted to senior marketing director. This wasn't just a step up, it was a leap, the kind that changes your trajectory, the kind that deserved champagne and a ridiculously expensive dress. I was practically vibrating with excitement, humming as I scrolled through catering options on my laptop, picturing the view from the lounge, the city lights twinkling below. The doorbell chimed, a cheerful, unexpected sound. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened it to find Mom, Dad, and my sister Bella huddled on my doorstep like a delegation of doom. Mom's smile was a little too bright, Dad's expression carefully neutral, and Bella was clutching a piece of paper to her chest, her lower lip trembling. Oh, here we go. Harper, darling, Mom chirped, sweeping past me into my small living room. We have such wonderful news. Dad followed, giving me a brief, awkward pat on the shoulder. Good to see you, sport. Bella trailed in last, eyes wide and suspiciously moist. She looked like a startled fawn about to burst into tears if someone so much as breathed too loudly. What's going on? I asked, already feeling that familiar knot tighten in my stomach, the one that always appeared before my achievements were about to be downsized or dismissed entirely. Bella, sweetie, show Harper your amazing news, Mom prompted, beaming at her like she'd just cured world hunger. Bella held out the paper with a flourish that was entirely unearned by its contents. It was a printed certificate, the kind you get from those free online things. I, um, I completed a quiz, she mumbled, her voice barely a whisper. It's called The Colorful World of Digital Collages. I got a certificate of completion. I stared at the certificate. It had clip art of badly rendered flowers. Isn't that just fantastic? Mom gushed, her eyes flicking to me, assessing my reaction. She found something she's really passionate about. We're so proud of her. That's great, Bella, I managed, trying to inject some enthusiasm into my voice. It felt like wading through treacle. Mom sat on my sofa, patting the cushion beside her. Harper, dear, come sit. We need to talk. It's about your party. I sat, the springs creaking ominously. Here it comes. Now, don't get upset, Mom began, her voice softening into that gentle, coercive tone she'd perfected over years. But with Bella's wonderful news, well, she just got this certificate and it's such a boost for her, you know? She's been feeling a bit lost. Her eyes pleaded with me. Your big celebration, all those people, that fancy lounge. It might just make her feel a little small, overshadowed. Bella sniffled on cue, her eyes welling up. I wouldn't want to be a bother, she whispered, though her entire presence screamed bother. Of course you're not a bother, sweet pea. Mom cooed, stroking Bella's hair. She turned back to me. You know how sensitive she is, Harper. We wouldn't want to dim her little light, would we? Especially now when she's finally found a spark. We were hoping, well, we were hoping you'd be the bigger person. Just this once. And postpone your party. For Bella. It would mean the world to her. To all of us. Postpone? I repeated, the word flat and lifeless. The confetti cannons in my mind deflated with a sad hiss. Dad, who had been examining a bookshelf with intense interest, finally spoke. Your mother's right, Harper. It would mean a lot to Bella. She needs this encouragement. Years of this. My valedictorian speech, the one I'd poured my heart into, cut short at dinner because Bella was devastated over a B in pottery. Let's not make a fuss tonight, Harper, Dad had said. Bella's upset. My first real job offer, the one that got me out of their house, celebrated with a lukewarm cup of tea because Bella had a stressful week deciding which reality show to binge watch. Each memory was a small, sharp stone in my shoe. The rage, hot and familiar, simmered just beneath the surface. I could feel my smile becoming a brittle mask. You're absolutely right, Mom, I said, the words tasting like ash. My voice was surprisingly steady. Bella's achievement is special. Of course, I'll postpone. Bella's face transformed. The tears vanished, replaced by a radiant, triumphant beam. Oh, Harper, thank you. You're the best sister ever. She actually clapped her hands. Mom sighed with exaggerated relief, patting my arm. That's my girl. Always so understanding, so mature. Dad nodded, a satisfied look on his face. Good. That's settled then. We knew you'd do the right thing. They were already on their feet, Mom chattering about a small family dinner to celebrate Bella's milestone, probably at my expense. We can all go out to that little Italian place Bella likes. I walked them to the door, the forced smile still plastered on my face. As they stepped into the hallway, their voices already turning to plans for Bella's big night. Mom's voice drifted back. She's always so understanding, isn't she, Nelson? I closed the door gently, my hand resting on the cool metal of the knob. The echo of their relief hung in the air. Understanding. Right. They had no idea. They had absolutely no idea what postponed was about to mean. The first call I made was to the Skyline Lounge. Hi, yes, this is Harper. I have a booking for the 15th for a private party. I paused, picturing the manager's disappointed face. Something's come up, a rather exciting corporate development, actually. I need to cancel the personal booking, but I'd like to keep the deposit on file. We're looking at a much larger corporate event in the near future, and your venue is top of our list. The manager, after a moment of surprise, was all smooth efficiency. Of course, Ms. Harper, we can certainly do that. We look forward to hearing about your corporate event. One hurdle down, the deposit was safe when I relayed the change of plans to Mom over the phone later that evening, carefully omitting the corporate event part and sticking to a vague postponement due to unforeseen circumstances. She was effusive. Oh, Harper, that's so thoughtful of you. Truly selfless, she said, her voice dripping with saccharine approval. Bella will be so pleased you're taking her feelings into account. She's already buzzing about her little celebration dinner. She's thinking next Friday. You'll be there, of course? Of course, Mom, I said, my teeth gritted. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Bella in the background yelled, Harper, can you help me pick an outfit? It has to be perfect for my certificate dinner. The next day, Aunt Haley called. Her calls were usually reserved for dispensing unsolicited advice or thinly veiled criticisms. Today was no exception. Harper, dear, she began, her voice like gravel rolling downhill. Your mother told me about you postponing your little get together. Very sensible. And so good of you to support Bella. She needs these little boosts, you know. That girl has a real artistic flair if only she'd apply herself. Perhaps you could help her build a portfolio for these digital collages of hers. Show her how to present herself professionally. I'll keep that in mind, Aunt Haley, I said, my voice dangerously calm. The condescension was a physical weight, a portfolio for a free online quiz certificate. Right. That evening, I met Livia at O'Malley's. The bar was noisy, a welcome contrast to the simmering resentment I'd been bottling up. Livia, my best friend and colleague, took one look at my face as I slid into the booth. Okay, spill, she said, pushing a glass of wine towards me. You look like you're about to spontaneously combust. Was it the parental units again? Bella's latest achievement? I recounted the entire saga, the certificate, the tearful plea, Mom's manipulative sweetness, Dad's passive agreement, Aunt Haley's helpful suggestions. Livia listened, her expression shifting from amusement to outrage. By the time I finished, her knuckles were white around her wine glass. Are you kidding me? She finally exploded, her voice low but fierce. A digital collage quiz, and they made you postpone your senior director party for that? Harper, they are actively trying to shrink you. They want you to play small so Bella can feel like a giant in comparison. Don't you dare let them. Her anger was a bomb, a validation of the fury I'd been suppressing. I know, I said, taking a large gulp of wine. I know, but what am I supposed to do? Every time I have something, anything, they find a way to make it about Bella. You fight back, Livia said, leaning forward, not by arguing with them. They'll just guilt trip you into oblivion. You do something so big, so undeniably you that they can't ignore it, can't diminish it, can't make it about anyone else. We sat in silence for a moment, the bar's cacophony fading into the background. Livia's words echoed in my head. Something so big. That night, sleep eluded me. I tossed and turned, Livia's words replaying. Then, an idea, faint at first, began to take shape. Not just a party, not just a celebration for me. Something more, something that would make a statement. I got out of bed, went to my laptop, and started typing. charity events, women's empowerment initiatives, corporate philanthropy. The screen glowed in the dark room. My fingers flew across the keyboard. The concept of a Women in Leadership Gala began to form, a high profile event. It would celebrate female achievement, launch a mentorship program I'd been dreaming about for years, and yes, it would also, quite publicly, celebrate my promotion. It would be everything my family tried to make my original party not be: significant, impactful, and undeniably mine. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was audacious. This was terrifying. This was perfect. I started drafting an email. To August Daniels, Head of Marketing. Subject: Proposal, Turner Corp. Women in Leadership Gala and Mentorship Initiative. Dear August, I hope this email finds you well. Following my recent promotion to Senior Marketing Director, I've been considering impactful ways to leverage this milestone, not just for personal celebration, but for broader company benefit and community engagement. I outlined the gala, the fundraising aspect for a new mentorship program aimed at supporting emerging female talent within our company and the wider community. I positioned my promotion as the natural celebratory anchor for such an initiative. It was bold, it was risky. My finger hovered over the send button. This was either career suicide or the beginning of something incredible. I took a deep breath and clicked. The email to August felt like launching a message in a bottle into a vast, indifferent ocean. I spent the next morning jumping at every notification, convinced each one was either a summons to his office for a dressing down, or worse, a curt dismissal of my overly ambitious idea. Just before lunch, his assistant called. Harper, Mr. Daniels would like to see you in his office. How's 10 minutes? My stomach did a nervous flip. 10 minutes is perfect. Thanks. I walked down the hall, my sensible heels clicking a rhythm of impending doom on the polished floor. I smoothed down my skirt, took a deep breath, and knocked on his open door. Harper, come in, sit down, August said, gesturing to one of the plush chairs opposite his expansive desk. He wasn't smiling, but he didn't look angry either. He looked thoughtful. My email was open on his large monitor. So, he began, leaning back in his chair, steepling his fingers, a Women in Leadership Gala. I braced myself. Yes, sir. I know it's a bit unconventional, tying it to a promotion, but I genuinely believe it could be a powerful initiative for. Harper, he interrupted, a ghost of a smile finally appearing. This isn't just a party idea. This is a brilliant branding and CSR opportunity. Your promotion, as you rightly pointed out, is the perfect launch pad. It's authentic. It's timely. I blinked, momentarily stunned. Sir? I like it, he said, nodding. I like it a lot. The mentorship program? Excellent. The fundraising aspect? Even better. This has real potential, Harper. Potential for significant positive PR, for boosting employee morale, for positioning Turner Corp as a forward thinking leader in supporting women. He leaned forward. I'm not just approving this, Harper. I'm allocating a significant company budget to it. I want you to lead this. Consider it your first major project as senior marketing director. You have the vision. I trust you to execute it. I was speechless. A budget? Me? Leading it? This was beyond anything I'd dared to hope for. Thank you, August. I finally managed, my voice a little shaky. Thank you so much. I won't let you down. I know you won't, he said. Now, about that venue you mentioned, the Skyline Lounge, good choice for a personal party. But for this, we need to think bigger, much bigger. Get me a proposal for the top 3 venues in the city that can handle a high profile gala. And a budget breakdown. Let's aim for something truly spectacular. My original party deposit, the one I'd carefully preserved, suddenly felt like seed money for an empire. The next few weeks were a blur. My new director duties were demanding enough, but now I was also secretly orchestrating a massive corporate event. Lunch breaks were spent scouting venues, evenings were dedicated to drafting sponsorship packages, and weekends involved hushed, excited calls with Livia, who had gleefully appointed herself my unofficial deputy gala chair. The grand ballroom at the Astoria? Livia whispered into the phone one Saturday morning. Harper, that place is legendary. Can we actually afford it? August said spectacular, I reminded her, a thrill coursing through me. And with the corporate sponsorship tier I've designed, I think we can. My family, of course, noticed my increased workload. You're working so hard, dear. Mom said during one of our brief phone calls. All those extra hours. Are you sure you're not just burying your disappointment about your party and work? It's okay to be sad, you know. I'm fine, Mom, I said, scrolling through a list of potential florists. Just busy with a new project. A new project? Bella piped up from the background. Is it fun? Harper, when you have a minute, I was wondering if you could help me make a portfolio for my collage certificate. Aunt Haley said I should. Maybe you could design a cover page for me with your marketing skills. I'll see what I can do, Bella, I said, my eye catching an email from a renowned event designer. Gotta go. Talk soon. The irony wasn't lost on me. They thought I was moping, hiding from the world. In reality, I was building something bigger and brighter than they could possibly imagine. The biggest long shot was Elizabeth Wagner, CEO of a global tech firm, a woman who'd shattered glass ceilings with a sledgehammer, an icon I'd admired from afar for years. Asking her to be the keynote speaker felt like asking for the moon, but August had encouraged me to aim high. The worst she can say is no, Harper. So I drafted the most persuasive, heartfelt invitation I could muster, outlining the gala's mission, the mentorship program, and why her presence would be transformative. I hit send, expecting nothing but silence. 3 days later, an email landed in my inbox. The subject line read, Re Invitation, Women in Leadership Gala. My breath hitched. I clicked it open. Ms. Harper, thank you for your inspiring invitation. The vision for your gala and the mentorship program resonates deeply with me. I would be honored to serve as your keynote speaker. Sincerely, Elizabeth Wagner. My heart didn't just stop. It felt like it did a series of acrobatic flips. I reread the email 3 times, my hands trembling. Elizabeth Wagner. The Elizabeth Wagner. This wasn't just real anymore. This was monumental. The official announcement of the Turner Corp Women in Leadership Gala hit the company intranet like a firework. My name was prominent. Chaired by newly promoted Senior Marketing Director Harper, this inaugural event will celebrate female achievement and launch a groundbreaking mentorship program. Almost immediately, the RSVPs started flooding in. Executives from other departments, city council members, even a few local celebrities Livia had managed to charm onto the guest list. The buzz wasn't confined to the office. Aunt Haley, predictably, was the first to catch wind of it outside the family's immediate, self absorbed bubble. She called Mom, her voice a potent mix of suspicion and intrigue. Nancy, did you hear? I could almost picture her, phone clutched to her ear, stirring a pot of something judgmental. Harper's involved in some massive corporate to do. The email went around my bridge club. Apparently, Margaret's husband works at Turner Corp. Sounds very fancy, very public. For just a work thing, you know? Mom called me a few hours later, her tone laced with confusion. Harper, darling, Haley was just on the phone. This gala? She said it's a very big deal. Is it terribly stressful? You should be resting after your, well, after you so kindly postponed your own celebration. You're not overdoing it, are you? It's a significant project, Mom, I said, keeping my voice even. But it's exciting. August is very supportive. August? She repeated, as if the name of my boss, the head of marketing for a major corporation, was a foreign concept. Oh, well, as long as you're not pushing yourself too hard. Bella, meanwhile, was oblivious to anything beyond her own upcoming certificate celebration dinner. She cornered me one evening when I made the mistake of stopping by my parents' house to pick up some old files. Harper, she exclaimed, holding up 2 nearly identical beige cardigans. Which one do you think for my dinner? And you haven't forgotten, have you? Next Friday. You seem so busy with your work thing lately. You're always on your phone. I'm managing, Bella, I said, resisting the urge to point out that my work thing was slightly more complex than choosing a cardigan. And no, I haven't forgotten. Then the first real hiccup. We had booked Artisan Eats, a high end, well respected catering company, weeks ago. Contract signed, deposit paid. 2 weeks before the gala, I got a curt email. Due to an unforeseen internal scheduling conflict, a double booking, we regret to inform you that Artisan Eats will be unable to fulfill our catering obligations for your event on the 15th. We sincerely apologize for any inconvenience. Inconvenience? I practically yelled at my laptop screen. They call this an inconvenience? Livia was in my office within minutes. Double booking? That sounds fishy. Artisan Eats is known for being meticulous. Tell me about it, I fumed, already dialing their number. Their apologies were profuse but unhelpful. No explanation, just deeply sorry. Livia, ever the pragmatist, started working her network. "Let me make some calls," she said, her expression grim. "Something isn't right here." 2 days later, after a frantic scramble that involved me nearly hyperventilating into a paper bag, Livia stormed back into my office, her eyes blazing. "You are not going to believe this," she said, shutting the door behind her. "I have a friend, Sarah, who used to do freelance work for Artisan Eats. She still has contacts there. She nosed around." "And?" I prompted, my stomach churning. "And," Livia continued, "it turns out that a distant cousin of your Aunt Haley, a guy named Barry who owns Barry's Budget Bites, or some other equally unappetizing catering business, has been making calls. He's been spreading rumors that our gala is disorganized, that we're in over our heads, that we might not even be able to pay our vendors. He specifically mentioned Artisan Eats should be wary." I stared at her, aghast. "Aunt Haley's cousin? Barry? Are you serious?" "Deadly," Livia confirmed. "Sarah said the manager at Artisan Eats got spooked, didn't want the bad press if we failed spectacularly, as Barry apparently put it. So they manufactured the double booking." A cold fury settled over me. Subtle family interference? This was sabotage, plain and simple, fueled by gossip and ill wishing, likely originating from Aunt Haley's concerns and amplified by a grasping relative. They were actively trying to derail this. That that toad, I sputtered. "Exactly," Livia said. But here's the kicker. While I was digging, I also put out feelers for new caterers. And guess who had an unexpected last minute cancellation for the 15th? She paused for the dramatic effect, a slow smile spreading across her face. "Who?" I asked, almost afraid to hope. "Le Papillon Exclusive," Livia announced, naming the city's most sought after, most expensive, most exclusive culinary team. Apparently, some tech billionaire's wedding got postponed. They heard about our gala, the Women in Leadership angle, the mentorship program, Elizabeth Wagner speaking, and they loved it. They're willing to step in at a surprisingly reasonable rate considering their usual prices because they believe in the cause. I was stunned. "Le Papillon Exclusif? Are you serious?" "Booked and confirmed an hour ago," Livia said, beaming. "The contract is on its way. Their menu proposal looks divine." A slow, dangerous smile spread across my own face. Aunt Haley's cousin Barry, in his petty attempt to sabotage us, had inadvertently pushed us into an even more prestigious league. The sabotage had backfired spectacularly, upgrading the gala beyond my wildest dreams. They had no idea. They had absolutely no idea who they were dealing with now. The buzz around the gala intensified. Cityscape magazine, a glossy publication that usually featured established CEOs and society figures, reached out. They wanted to do a feature on the Turner Corp Women in Leadership Gala, focusing on its innovative approach to corporate philanthropy, and to my surprise, a profile on me as a rising leader to watch. The interview took place in my office, which suddenly felt very small under the gaze of the journalist and her photographer. I spoke about August's vision for the company, the incredible support I'd received, and my passion for the mentorship program. "In this gala," the journalist, a sharp woman named Chloe, asked, "it's also a celebration of your recent promotion to senior marketing director, isn't it? A rather unique way to mark such an achievement." "It is," I confirmed, trying to sound modest but firm. The promotion was certainly a catalyst. It made me think about how I could use that platform to elevate others, to create opportunities. This initiative is about celebrating all female achievement, recognizing potential, and fostering growth. Chloe smiled. "That's a great angle, Harper. Very inspiring." The article, when it went online a few days later, was flattering. It featured a surprisingly good photo of me, looking poised and professional, and highlighted the mentorship program. And yes, it explicitly mentioned my promotion as the celebratory anchor for the entire event. Aunt Haley, whose internet skills apparently extended to setting up Google alerts for anything remotely scandalous or noteworthy involving family, forwarded the link to Mom within an hour of it being published. The subject line of her email, Mom later relayed, was just a series of increasingly agitated question marks. Mom's call came shortly thereafter. Her voice was tight, stretched thin like overused elastic. Harper, she began, no darling this time. Haley sent me an article from Cityscape magazine. Oh, yes, I said, feigning mild surprise. The piece on the gala. It came out well, didn't it? It says it says this gala is also celebrating your promotion, Mom said, each word carefully enunciated. I thought I thought you postponed that for Bella. This is a company initiative, Mom, I stated calmly, picking a stray piece of lint off my blazer. It's a Turner Corp. Event celebrating leadership and success. That includes my recent success, yes. August felt it was an appropriate way to launch the program. There was a strained silence on the other end. I could hear her breathing a little too quickly. But all those important people, Elizabeth Wagner, it seems very elaborate for just a work project. It is elaborate, Mom, and it is important. Before she could formulate another bewildered question, Bella grabbed the phone. Her voice was a high pitched whine. Harper, Mom just told me about your work party. It sounds really big, but you know my special certificate dinner is next Friday, right? You didn't forget, did you? No, Bella, I didn't forget your dinner. Good, she chirped, completely missing the undercurrent of tension. Because I was thinking, if your work thing is on the same night, you can just come to my dinner after it's over, right? It won't go too late, will it? My dinner, I mean. We can save you some cake. The sheer, unadulterated self absorption was almost breathtaking. Bella, I said, trying to keep the exasperation out of my voice, the gala is a major event. I'm chairing it. I'll be there from start to finish. Oh, she said, a note of petulance creeping in. Well, try not to be too late for mine, okay? It's really important to me. She handed the phone back to Mom, who was still audibly processing. Harper, Mom said, her voice regaining a sliver of its usual manipulative softness. Are you sure about this? All this fuss? For a promotion? It's more than just a promotion, Mom, I said. It's about what comes next. The conversation ended soon after, leaving a residue of unease. They were confused, definitely, but the full picture hadn't quite clicked into place for them yet. They were still trying to fit my gala into their familiar narrative, the one where my achievements were minor, easily overshadowed, and ultimately secondary to Bella's delicate sensibilities. Later that evening, my phone rang again. Caller ID. Dad, a rare occurrence. He usually let Mom do the talking, especially when it came to anything remotely emotional or confrontational. Harper? His voice was hesitant, a little gruff. Hi, Dad. Your mother, she's a bit upset about this gala thing. He paused. She feels, well, she feels a bit left out. Like she doesn't understand what's going on. I've tried to explain, Dad. It's a corporate event I'm leading. Right, right. Corporate. Another pause. But this article, Cityscape, it makes it sound like a very big deal. For you, I mean. Is this party, I mean, gala, is it really that important? I took a breath. This was it. A chance to be clear, unambiguous. It's the biggest deal of my career so far, Dad, I said, my voice steady and clear. It's something I've built, something I'm incredibly proud of. Perhaps you'll see. The line was quiet for a long moment. I could hear the faint hum of the television in their living room. Then, without another word, he hung up. The silence he left behind was heavy, filled with unspoken things. But for the first time, I felt a flicker of something other than frustration. Maybe, just maybe, a tiny crack was appearing in their wall of willful ignorance. The week of the gala arrived in a whirlwind of last minute logistics and exhilarating stress. Florists, lighting technicians, security details. My days were a carefully orchestrated chaos. Livia was a rock handling crises with a calm efficiency that I envied. My apartment looked like a command center covered in seating charts, vendor contracts, and timelines. On Wednesday, I had my final fitting for the gown. Livia had found it, a stunning, deep sapphire creation that shimmered with every movement. When I saw myself in the salon's three-way mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked powerful, confident. Wow, Livia breathed, her eyes wide. Harper, you look incredible. like you're about to accept an Oscar, not just launch a mentorship program. It feels a bit like that, I admitted, a genuine smile finally breaking through the stress. The calm before the storm, however, was short lived. Mom chose that evening to launch her full scale guilt trip offensive. Harper, I really need to talk to you about Bella's dinner, she began, her voice oozing with maternal concern. She's going to be absolutely devastated if her own sister isn't there to celebrate her little achievement, especially after you agreed to postpone your own party for her. She's picked out a special tablecloth and everything. Mom, I said, trying to keep my patience from fraying completely. We've been over this. The gala is on Friday night. I am chairing the event. I have to be there. But this work event, she pressed, it can't be that important, can it? Surely you can slip away for an hour or two? For Bella? She's so sensitive, you know. This will crush her. But it is that important, Mom, I said, my voice firmer than I intended. It's crucial. Hundreds of people are attending. Elizabeth Wagner is speaking. I am giving a speech. There is no slipping away. A heavy sigh crackled through the phone. I just don't understand why your work has to take precedence over your family, Harper, over your sister's happiness. My work is important, Mom, and this gala is important. I'm sorry if that's difficult for you to understand, but it's the reality. I ended the call before she could launch into another round of emotional blackmail. The day before the gala, Thursday, the local Channel 5 News ran a preview segment on their evening broadcast. Livia had arranged it, a smart PR move. They called the Turner Corp. Women in Leadership Gala, one of the season's most anticipated philanthropic events. The segment featured sweeping shots of the grand ballroom at the Astoria, crews bustling about, transforming it into a glittering wonderland of flowers and uplighting. And then there I was. A brief clip, maybe 10 seconds long, of me conferring with the event manager, a clipboard in hand, looking surprisingly poised and in command. I was wearing a sharp black pantsuit, my hair pulled back. The voiceover was smooth and professional. The gala, spearheaded by Turner Corp's newly promoted Senior Marketing Director Harper, also celebrates her recent advancement and her vision for the new Ascent Mentorship program designed to empower women in the workforce. My phone buzzed almost immediately. It was Livia. Did you see it? You looked amazing. Total boss lady. I saw it, I said, a strange mixture of pride and trepidation swirling within me. It was very well done. The real fallout, however, came about an hour later. Aunt Haley, who apparently consumed local news with the same fervor she applied to family gossip, must have seen it, and she must have immediately called Mom. Because my phone rang again, and this time it was Mom, but her voice was completely different. It wasn't confused or manipulative, it was high pitched, trembling, and laced with a dawning, horrified understanding. Harper! She choked out. Harper, Haley just called me. She saw you on the news. Channel 5. Yes, Mom. They did a preview of the gala. But but they said Haley said it looked like a movie premiere. The ballroom, the lights, and they said it was for your promotion. They said your name, that you were in charge, that this whole thing was because of you. The carefully constructed dam of their denial had finally burst. The full scale, the undeniable public nature, the personal triumph of the event, it was all crashing down on them. Yes, Mom, I said quietly. That's what I've been trying to tell you. There was a strangled sob on the other end. Harper Elizabeth, what have you done? Is this your revenge because we asked you to postpone that little party? I paused, the word revenge hanging in the air. It wasn't the word I would have chosen, but perhaps in a way from their perspective it was. It's my celebration, Mom, I said, my voice calm, steady, and devoid of apology. The one I earned, the one I built. Perhaps you, Dad, and Bella should all tune into Channel 5 tomorrow night around 8 p.m. They're doing a live segment from the gala. You might find it illuminating. I didn't wait for a response. I pressed end call before she could utter another word, leaving her to grapple with the reality of what I had indeed done. The quiet click of the disconnection felt like a door closing on an old, suffocating room. The grand ballroom at the Astoria was a vision. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm, golden glow over hundreds of elegantly dressed guests. The murmur of conversation and clinking glasses filled the air, a symphony of anticipation. Livia, looking radiant in a crimson dress, gave me a thumbs up from across the room. August beamed, shaking hands with the city mayor. Le Papillon Exclusif's creations were being whisked around on silver trays, each a miniature work of art. It was, in a word, breathtaking. And it was mine. Elizabeth Wagner, a figure of quiet power and immense grace, delivered a keynote speech that was both deeply personal and universally inspiring. She spoke of challenges, of resilience, of the imperative to lift others as we climb. Then she turned towards me, her smile genuine. "And now," she announced, her voice resonating through the ballroom, "it gives me immense pleasure to introduce the driving force behind this incredible evening. A woman whose vision and dedication have made this gala a reality, and whose own recent achievements we are also here to celebrate. Please welcome Turner Corp's Senior Marketing Director and the founder of the Ascent Mentorship Program, Harper." The spotlight found me. For a heart stopping moment, the sheer number of faces looking up at me was overwhelming. Then I took a breath, smoothed down my sapphire gown, and walked towards the podium. "Thank you, Elizabeth," I began, my voice surprisingly steady as it carried through the speakers. "Thank you all for being here tonight." I spoke about my journey, not dwelling on the slights, but on the drive they had inadvertently fueled. I spoke about the hurdles women face, the subtle and not so subtle ways ambition can be stifled. I talked about the importance of recognizing one's own worth even when others try to diminish it. "Sometimes," I said, my gaze sweeping across the room, "postponed moments, moments where you're asked to shrink or step aside, can become the most powerful opportunities. Opportunities to redefine success on your own terms, to build something bigger, something that not only celebrates your own achievements, but also creates pathways for others." Then, with a surge of pride, I officially launched the Harper Ascent Mentorship Program. I thanked August and Turner Corp. For their unwavering belief in me and in the initiative. The applause was deafening, a wave of warmth and validation that washed over me. People were on their feet, a standing ovation. Across town, in my parents' slightly too small living room, the atmosphere was considerably less celebratory. Bella's certificate of completion for the colorful world of digital collages lay on the coffee table, next to a plate of rapidly cooling mini quiches. Aunt Haley was there, perched on the edge of the sofa, her lips pursed. A couple of Mom's reluctant bridge club friends roped in for Bella's big night, made polite, strained conversation. Dad stared blankly at the wall. Bella, dressed in one of her beige cardigans, kept glancing towards the door, a frown etching itself onto her face. "Harper's really late," she muttered to Mom. "She promised she'd try." Mom just patted her hand absently, her eyes darting nervously toward the television. Someone, probably Dad, trying to escape the oppressive awkwardness, had idly flicked it on to Channel 5 earlier. The local news was on, muted. Suddenly, the news anchor's voice, previously a low hum, cut through the room's strained quiet. "We're live now at the Astoria, at the inaugural Turner Corp. Women in Leadership Gala, one of the city's most talked about events." On the screen, there I was, standing at the podium, bathed in golden light, accepting the thunderous applause. The camera panned across the glittering crowd, the mayor, business leaders, Elizabeth Wagner smiling proudly. It lingered on the elegant decor, the sheer scale of the event. A stunning success by all accounts. The anchor gushed, raising significant funds for the newly established Harper Ascent mentorship program. And what a night for Harper herself, the senior marketing director who spearheaded this incredible initiative, also celebrating her recent promotion in spectacular fashion. Truly a meteoric rise for this young leader. Silence descended in the Turner living room, a thick, suffocating silence. Bella's certificate, with its clip art flowers, looked utterly insignificant. Mom's face was ashen. Her hand, which had been patting Bella's, froze midair. Dad stared at the screen, his mouth slightly agape, speechless. Aunt Haley's jaw had literally dropped. Her carefully constructed expression of familial superiority crumbled. Bella's eyes, wide and disbelieving, welled up, not with the easily summoned tears of self pity this time, but with something raw, angry, and deeply humiliated. The spotlight she had always craved, the attention she felt was her birthright, was shining brightly elsewhere on a stage far grander than she could have ever imagined, and it was fixed squarely on her older sister. The news report concluded with the anchor saying, and the newly established Harper Ascent Mentorship Program has already received substantial pledges tonight, promising to change the lives of many aspiring women. A truly inspiring evening. A choked sob escaped Bella. She jumped up, knocking over a glass of fruit punch that spread like a bloodstain on the beige carpet, and stormed off to her room, slamming the door behind her. Nancy looked utterly, completely defeated. All the fight, all the manipulation had drained out of her. Dad slowly shook his head, a complex, unreadable emotion flickering across his face. Part shame, part bewilderment, and perhaps, just perhaps, a dawning, reluctant respect. The little party they'd so casually dismissed had become a citywide triumph, and they hadn't even been invited. The days following the gala were a blur of positive energy. My phone didn't stop ringing. Congratulations from colleagues, messages from women I'd never met who were inspired by the mentorship program, even a few tentative partnership offers from other companies wanting to support the initiative. Media outlets wanted follow up interviews. August was ecstatic, already talking about making the gala an annual flagship event for Turner Corp. The call from my parents came 2 days later. I let it go to voicemail the first few times, needing a little more space, a little more time to bask in the glow of my success without their inevitable attempts to reframe it, or worse, inject their brand of belated, self serving understanding. When I finally picked up, Mom's voice was small, hesitant. Harper? It's Mom. Hi, Mom. We we saw you on the news. The gala. A pause. It was quite something. Yes, it was, I agreed, offering nothing more. We didn't realize, she said, the words barely a whisper. We just didn't realize it was going to be like that. There was a shuffling sound, and then Dad's voice, surprisingly clear, came on the line. Harper, your mother is trying to say, well, we're proud of you. We really are. We should have We should have handled things differently. About your party. About a lot of things. It wasn't a full apology, not really. But from Dad, it was monumental. Thank you, Dad, I said, and I meant it. That means something. Bella predictably gave me the silent treatment. Livia, who still had occasional, unavoidable contact with my family through distant mutual acquaintances, reported that Bella was sulking spectacularly. The sting of being so thoroughly, so publicly upstaged was clearly too raw for her to process. Her certificate for digital collages remained uncelebrated, a forgotten relic of a time when her minor whims dictated our family's emotional landscape. My relationship with my family had shifted irrevocably. The old dynamic, the one where I was the perpetually understanding, endlessly accommodating supporting act to Bella's starring role, was shattered. In its place was a new cautious respect from my parents, but also a palpable distance. It wasn't comfortable yet. The pieces of our broken normal hadn't settled into a new, easy shape. Maybe they never would. Aunt Haley, I heard through the grapevine, was suddenly very quiet on the subject of my career. She even, according to Livia's source, mumbled something at her bridge club about me being a very determined young woman. High praise indeed. The revenge, if I could even call it that anymore, had been sweet, not in a bitter, malicious way, but in its powerful, undeniable affirmation of my worth. It wasn't just about showing them, it was about showing myself what I was capable of building when I stopped letting their small expectations define my limits. It was about realizing that their inability to see my light didn't mean I shouldn't shine. The Harper Ascent mentorship program took off with a momentum that astonished even me. Young women from all walks of life applied, eager for guidance, for a supportive network, for a chance to be seen and heard. My passion project became a thriving reality, consuming my spare hours in the best possible way. A few weeks after the gala, I was having coffee with Maya, one of the first mentees in the program. She was a bright, ambitious recent graduate, full of ideas but unsure how to navigate the corporate world. We were laughing about a particularly awkward networking experience she'd had. It's just sometimes it feels like you have to shrink yourself to fit in, Maya said, stirring her latte. Or, I countered, leaning forward, you can choose to build a bigger room, one where you and others like you have all the space you need to grow. She looked at me. a slow smile spreading across her face. I like that. A bigger room. Me too, I said, my gaze drifting out the coffee shop window. The city bustled, full of challenges and opportunities. The echoes of the gala's applause still resonated, a quiet hum beneath the surface of my days. The family drama, once so consuming, felt like a receding shadow, a painful but necessary lesson learned, a difficult battle decisively won. This was it. This was the real victory. Not the stunned faces in my parents' living room, but this connection, this shared ambition, this act of lifting someone else up. In building my lighthouse, I hadn't just illuminated my own path. I was helping to light the way for others, and that, I realized with a clarity that felt like sunshine, was the best, most satisfying revenge of all.